Imagine opening a private royal notebook and finding a line written decades ago by Princess Diana herself. A line so blunt, so piercing, and so revealing that it suddenly recasts everything we thought we knew about one of the royal family's most controversial figures. Imagine discovering that Diana once looked directly at her brother-in-law, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, and summed him up not with politeness, not with royal diplomacy, but with three words that have lingered ever since. Very, very noisy and loud. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't a casual remark. It was her instinctive reading of a man she believed carried something deeper, something unsettled, something troubling beneath the surface. And today, after years of scandals, exile, and accusations surrounding Andrew, those words feel less like a description and more like a warning. Before we dive in, there's something I need to share with you. Over the past few days, thousands have watched these stories unfold, but most haven't subscribed. If you're one of them, I invite you now to join us. Subscribe to Crownverse so you never miss the next chapter in this unfolding royal history. Those three words, very, very noisy, paint a vivid image. They capture a man who commanded the room not with authority, but with volume. Someone who didn't blend into the royal backdrop, but pushed himself forward, loud, animated, demanding attention. Diana rarely spoke carelessly. She was intuitive, observant, perceptive. She read people deeply, and what she saw in Andrew stayed with her. According to the royal biography that uncovered these reflections, Diana reportedly went further. She suggested that there was something troubling him, a subtle but powerful observation coming from someone who knew intimately what it meant to live under pressure, to carry emotional burdens, and to struggle within the confines of the monarchy. While her exact meaning remains unclear, her remark has sparked speculation that must be treated carefully, because it is unverified, about whether Diana sensed early signs of the turmoil and instability that would later define Andrew's public life. But what makes this revelation so striking is its timing. Diana formed these impressions long before Andrew became the center of global scandal. Long before the headlines, the investigations, the palace announcements, and the removal of his royal titles. Her comments weren't influenced by hindsight. They were early observations of a man she struggled to understand, a man who seemed restless and distracted, a man whose personality grated against her own. Diana wrote that Andrew was happy to sit in front of the television all day watching cartoons and videos. If true, this paints a portrait of immaturity, a man content with passivity rather than purpose. It presents an image of someone disconnected from the responsibilities and discipline expected of a senior royal. She described him as not a doer, suggesting that he was more comfortable avoiding action than taking initiative. These reports are based on the claims attributed to the biography and should be understood as such. They are not first-hand confirmations from Diana's own released letters or diaries, but reflections described by the book. Still, the picture they create is compelling, especially when placed against the events that would later define Andrew's life. In those early years, Andrew had already returned from the Falklands War with public admiration. He had a reputation as a charismatic and confident young royal. But beneath the surface, Diana seemed to see something else: unpredictability, volatility, and perhaps even a sense of drifting. Those who knew the dynamics inside the royal family during those years often say Diana and Andrew were never close. She reportedly found him loud and disruptive, far removed from her own quieter, emotionally sensitive nature. Their personalities clashed. She sought connection. He sought entertainment. She carried enormous emotional weight. He chased distractions. She tried to understand people. He seemed unwilling to look beyond the surface. As time went on, the royal family faced one of its most tumultuous periods. Diana and Charles' marriage deteriorated. The monarchy's public standing faltered. And through all of this, Andrew's role became increasingly unclear. While other royals found purpose through duty, charity, or public service, Andrew seemed to drift, taking on engagements without passion and cultivating friendships that would later come under intense scrutiny. Some royal commentators have long claimed, though without definitive proof, that Andrew felt overshadowed by his siblings, particularly Charles and Diana, whose marriage and divorce dominated the royal narrative. Whether or not this is true remains unverified. But it is undeniable that Andrew's behavior often contrasted sharply with the expectations placed on a working royal. Diana's impressions appear to reflect this disconnect. When she described Andrew as noisy, loud, and troubling, she wasn't attacking him. She was observing him. She understood what it meant to struggle insolence. She recognized signs of emotional instability. And to her, Andrew represented a kind of chaos that she found unsettling. Their relationship remained civil but distant. Diana, known for her empathy, seemed unable to bridge the gap between them. Andrew's energy was disruptive, even childlike at times. Diana preferred sincerity, emotional depth, and quiet truth. Andrew preferred noise, distraction, and avoidance. As the years went on, their paths diverged further. Diana's life became a global phenomenon. Her compassion, activism, and vulnerability transforming her into a cultural icon. Andrew's life, meanwhile, seemed to lose direction. He struggled to build a meaningful role in the family. He pursued business ventures that raised questions. He surrounded himself with wealthy and powerful acquaintances whose motives were not always clear. This is where Diana's early observations become haunting. If she indeed sensed something troubling within him, something unresolved or unstable, those instincts may have foreshadowed the crises that would later engulf Andrew's public life. Because decades later, Andrew would find himself at the center of one of the most damaging controversies in modern royal history. His association with Jeffrey Epstein became global news, sparking outrage, investigations, and fierce public debate. Accusations emerged, accusations Andrew denied. While some of the claims made against him remain unproven or unverified, the fallout was catastrophic. The palace distanced itself, public sentiment shifted. His royal title was removed by the king. His future as a working royal was over. During these events, a striking pattern emerged. Andrew avoided the public eye. He gave controlled interviews. He retreated behind palace walls. Members of Congress in the United States accused him of avoiding questioning. Though these are claims that Andrew has not personally addressed directly, in the midst of all this, Diana's words took on new meaning. Her comment that something seemed to trouble him, not just personality quirks, but something deeper, has resurfaced with renewed intensity. Her remark reads almost like a warning that behind Andrew's noise was anxiety. Behind his energy was insecurity, and behind his loudness was a man struggling to find his place.
And this raises a powerful question. Did Diana see the early signs of Andrew's downfall before anyone else? Was she among the first to recognize that he carried a restlessness, a volatility, and a lack of grounding that would one day lead him down a dangerous path? Some royal experts have suggested that Diana had a talent for reading people, that she could sense emotional fractures that others missed. This is not fact, but a widely discussed interpretation of her personality. If that interpretation is true, then perhaps her remarks about Andrew were more insightful than anyone realized at the time. The book that revealed her comments describes Andrew as a man whose early promise faded into irresponsibility, impulsivity, and questionable judgment. Those familiar with royal circles say, though not always publicly, that Andrew was difficult to manage, resistant to rules, and prone to believing he was untouchable. These claims remain unverified opinions from commentators, but they echo increasingly familiar narratives about Andrew's life. Yet what makes Diana's words truly striking is not their criticism, but their compassion. She didn't call him dangerous. She didn't call him evil. She didn't call him a threat. She said he was noisy and loud. She suggested something troubled him. She observed his behavior without malice. She saw a man out of alignment with his own life, unable to find his place, stuck in emotional adolescence. If she were alive today, how would she view Andrew's trajectory? Would she be shocked? Or would she believe that the signs had always been there, signs she quietly noticed long before the world did? The royal family today remains silent on Andrew's controversies. His siblings rarely mention him publicly. His relationship with the king appears strained. His future remains uncertain. Inside the palace, he reportedly still hopes for a return to public life, though this remains unconfirmed and must be treated as speculation. There is no indication from the monarchy that such a return will ever occur. Meanwhile, voices outside the family continue to demand answers. Members of Congress have stated that Andrew has avoided responding to requests for cooperation, claims that Andrew himself has not responded to directly. The anger, the accusations, the headlines, all of it forms a stark contrast to the early image of a carefree prince. And yet, when we place Diana's early impressions beside today's reality, the story becomes far more complex. We see not just a fallen royal, but a man whose behavior once puzzled even the most intuitive member of the monarchy. We see a disconnect between the expectations placed upon him and the personality he actually had. We see a man whose loudness masked deeper issues Diana sensed but could never fully articulate. In the end, this revelation is not just about what Diana saw. It is about what her observation reveals now. Because when a woman known for her insight, empathy, and emotional intelligence describes someone as noisy, loud, and troubled, people listen, especially when time seems to have proven her right. Diana's words echo across decades, haunting Andrew's story like a shadow he cannot escape. They remind the world that even within the royal family, a family surrounded by ceremony, hierarchy, and protocol, human instinct still matters. And sometimes a single remark written quietly in private says more than 1,000 official statements. Her description stands as both a critique and a warning. It captures Andrew not in scandal, but at the beginning of his journey. It paints him as restless, unsettled, unfocused. It invites us to ask whether the seeds of his downfall were present all along, unnoticed by most, but unmistakable to Diana. And as Andrew continues to face the consequences of his actions, accusations, and choices, the world is left wondering whether Diana saw the truth before anyone else. A truth hidden not behind palace walls, but in the simple behavior of a man who was, even then, very, very noisy and loud.